My name's Kevin Kettler. I'm with Flex, global manufacturer for the many of the compute and infrastructure pieces. When you look at the edge is as a new compute paradigm that is emerging. The interesting parts for us is as we look at 5G in particular, we look at some of the shifts that 5G will create in terms of the demands of the infrastructure. That includes the high bandwidth that 5G will bring to the table, as well as the low latency that 5G brings to the table. It really necessitates you to think about whether all of that traffic coming in from 5G will need to flow the whole way back to a cloud data center in a centralized location, or whether there's a better model for that data to reside more locally, to be computed on or worked on, and decisions made locally. So the emergence of many new applications such as autonomous vehicles, healthcare, or areas where there's IoT devices that might require responsiveness with the latency or might require high bandwidth shifts back up to the cloud, having something closer to the edge of the network. And the definition of that can be the whole way to the cell tower or some intermediate point between what was traditionally a large cloud environment back to the tower itself, is where we think there'll be some new compute paradigm shifts for this new edge model. So the edge is different in that what the compute environment is. If you start off with just asking the question, what does that environmentally look like? The first thing is it might be a compute environment that is at the base of a cell tower, in which case it is usually not a large footprint deployment. It will require its own power system, its nine nines of reliability, and with that comes the fact that it will be unmanned, and you've got to look at environmental conditions, uptime conditions, and all the other conditions around that. So if it's truly on the edge of a cell tower, as an example, the infrastructure requirements needed for that are going to be challenging to put in place. Nothing that hasn't been solved in the industry, but it's a little bit different place for a data center. As you move out from the core cell area, you begin to see a little bit more of managed locations that can go ahead and handle the edge as you move away. The edge doesn't replace the cloud. I view the edge as very complementary to the cloud. If you look at the computational needs and the storage needs moving forward, the cloud will continue to be a huge growth opportunity for those in the cloud business. But the edge is just a way to supplement the computing and storage needs in a more regional fashion than what we've historically done, and it will complement the cloud. What Flex is doing relative to the edge and the cloud is we've been fortunate in the areas that we've historically worked are areas of telco. We do cloud infrastructure, telco equipment infrastructure, optical networking, traditional networking, Wi-Fi, access points. These pieces are all converging and coming together, and the beauty of what we have is the ability to work with a lot of players that were in more of a vertical market historically that now have to work through how they're going to play together in an environment where services are going to span multiple different verticals. And that piece I just described is the equipment side, which we're very interested in, but our other business units include things like automotive, where we're working very closely with autonomous vehicles. We have a vertical business unit in healthcare where we're doing new IoT healthcare devices that will fit into this new communications market. We also have verticals around smart cities as well as IoT devices. And then if you move over to consumer goods, we're the largest producer of, for example, fitness bands and other things that require, will move to a strong communication back through a 5G network as we move forward with some of the attributes around 5G. The edge is definitely different things for different markets. The interesting thing for the edge will be how the business model evolves for the edge, because you now have a lot of players on the edge that are going to make decisions on whether they want to co-locate hardware in an edge environment. I'll use the example, an automotive company might say, I want to deploy equipment at the base of a cell tower so I can control and talk to all my autonomous vehicles of that particular company type. You might have at the same time, you might have somebody that's a media interest saying, I'm going to go ahead and want to have media distributed locally through what I can out of a local edge compute platform, so I'm going to go ahead and build an infrastructure around that. You also have the notion of how does that serve to not just vehicles, but how does things like 5G off of an edge feed into a home environment where you will have customer premise equipment that is 5G related that then feeds back to an edge data center. DCD event, Zettastructure event here in London has been a fantastic event. Had a great time on the panel this morning speaking, and then I had a breakout session on 5G and the 5G infrastructure requirements. Both were well attended. I had a lot of great questions. The interactions and networking is probably the biggest thing. I've already had a number of customer meetings, including some that I didn't even plan to have, that have come about just by networking with people here. So it's been a fantastic event for myself and for Flex. It's definitely about the people in the audience that are at DCD that makes the difference here. The caliber of attendee and the level of influencer that you have is fantastic.